I was laying in jail. I did my documentary about this. I was laying in there and I realized that I was better than this. It wasn't easy. It was tough. I cried. But thankfully, I had someone that did believe in me. There's so many ways to still make money offline that people aren't utilizing. But stop looking at what other people are doing and make sure that you're customizing a strategy specifically for your audience.
What are some of the practical advice that you would give someone who's on a journey of attracting wealth?
A lot of times people don't know their power. They don't know how to use what they have.
A few years ago, and we both work on speaking platforms, and we just decided to work together. I was so inspired by her.
He is a dynamic, smart, intelligent man who wants to see people win.
Ari, your journey to becoming a multi-million-dollar brand owner, it's truly inspiring. Can you share with us the pivotal moments that shaped your entrepreneurial path?
Oh my goodness, there's been so many moments. But to name, I would say probably that first moment was when I was a little girl at 6 years old, wanting to not just play with my Barbie dolls, but actually sell them to my friends. I've always had this knack to want to be independent and to be able to make my own money my way and kind of have that. At that time, it wasn't necessarily financial freedom, but just freedom to create and do what I wanted to do as a person, I think. So I think that was my most pivotal moment. Other than that, it was realizing that I had some kind of gift that was given to me, I guess, at birth, where people saw talents in me, and that was in business, in strategy, in hustle, in mindset, in personal development, business development, brand development. And so when I noticed that there was a gift there because people told me, I realized that I needed to use it, and I needed to use it to help other people and to impact other people's lives. And when I saw that shift happening in other people, I realized I had something.
A lot of people are very afraid to talk about money, and when they hear multi-million-dollar, they always think, oh my goodness, this is so far-fetched. How does one even get there?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who says, I don't like listening to money because I don't have money?
I think we can't be afraid of money. I think we have to know that money has power. It's not necessarily power to be used in an abusive way, but in a way that can change the world. When we have money, we're able to do more. We're able to help more people. We're able to support more people. We're able to live a life of freedom, I think. So if people who don't have money, I think we have to change our mindset around how money could make a difference in our lives, and that it's okay to want money and to talk about money and to not necessarily love money, but to know that it's okay. I think we deserve it. I think it's our birthright, right? They say abundance is our birthright. And I think having an abundant amount of money is also our birthright. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay.
It's okay to talk about money.
Yes, it is.
You utilize a strength-based approach in your coaching, and you've coached many entrepreneurs, helped them identify their unique gifts. What has been the impact, and most specifically on their profit goals? What has been your impact?
Yeah, I think when I talk about, building on a strength base, a lot of times people don't know their power. They don't know how to use what they have in the way that it's going to benefit their business, their brand, and other people. And so with me, I'm able to build that confidence and make them really realize who they are as a person and how those gifts can be monetized, right? And sometimes when we have the gift or the talent, we don't know how special we are or how to use it. And so my job is to help entrepreneurs use that gift in a way that's going to create profits for them. So a lot of my clients, sometimes they are not even utilizing certain gifts that they have within them. And I'm able to see it because I'm on the outside looking in, right? And I'm able to pull that out of them and give them a strategy in how to use other gifts with the gifts they're already using to build profits and make money in their businesses from it. So hopefully that answered your question.
You did. I mean, when I look at some of the words you use, the silent money method.
Yeah.
I looked at that and I thought, what does this mean?
Yes.
What is the silent money method?
So with social media now, right, everybody is hopping online and thinking that that's the only place to build an audience, make money, promote their products and services. When, to me, offline, that's silent money. Offline money, the money that I'm making with relationships here that I'm building in South Africa, through relationships, through networking, through the old way of doing media, actually still works. Even though we're in the podcast era, which is great, we're in the social media era, we're in the TikTok era, right? And all of these things are amazing, and we have to stay with the trends. But with silent money, there's so many ways to still make money offline that people aren't utilizing because they're being told, go on social media, post 3 times a day, build your audience. And you should have an online position, but there's also lots of money, even more money offline. Can I give an example?
Of course, yeah.
So, for example, I had a push planner, which is a business planner. And what it is it's a big, thick planner. It's a yearly planner. And it's a way for you to strategize your profit goals and, get your business in order on a daily basis. So I was marketing it online, trying to sell 30,000 planners to 30,000 business owners. But what I said, you know what? Let me take this strategy offline and let me contact 5 companies that have 6,000 people, right? That I can sell the 5 companies 6,000 planners. You get what I'm saying? And they sell it to their people. So now I'm only pitching to 5 or 6 people versus 30,000. You get what I'm saying? So it's less work, same amount of money.
But when we talk about networking, a lot of entrepreneurs say that they struggle. Many of them say that they're always in the grind trying to figure stuff out.
Yes.
How do you approach that? And what would you say to somebody who's trying to enhance their networking skills in order to grow the business?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a whole chapter in my book called Become a High Value Brand on the networking process and how to network effectively, the whole follow-up process and all of that. But a lot of people, like I invited people to our event tonight that we're having at the Leonardo rooftop, and they're like, nervous about meeting people and networking and such. But you have to get out of your comfort zone. That's number one. Number one as an entrepreneur is get out of that safe space that feels comfortable, because all the magic happens outside of your comfort zone. Number one. Number one. So what was your question again? Remind me of your question.
My question's about networking, because entrepreneurs love to say their network is their net worth.
And it is.
But a lot of them don't even know how to approach networking.
Yeah. So you have to be intentional. So, for example, if there are events happening in your area or even far away from your area, and there's someone that you have a solution for, that your company provides a solution for, find out where they're going to be. Business branding and high value branding is about being intentional. You can't just keep struggling and just trying to figure it out. We got to because you said that before, trying to figure it out. Stop trying to figure it out and figure it out. So that takes being intentional. So if there's someone you want to link up with that you can build a good relationship with, find out where they're going to be and show up there. Show up there.
And when the person shows up, what's the process that the entrepreneur should take?
Follow them to the bathroom. And I'm so serious. When that person gets up and goes to their car, go to the bathroom, like I literally have strategy around this, and it really works. You have to be intentional. When you're wanting to meet someone, the very first thing you want to do is compliment them. Everybody loves a compliment. Oh, I like your suit. I like your haircut. Where'd you get your earrings? It starts a conversation, right? It literally does. And if you're soft and you're nice and you're approachable, it can open up so many doors and people don't even realize it. So it's about being intentional. Or another way to build your network is providing a service. People don't realize that building relationships is about serving. So I always tell my clients, how can you serve sometimes for free? We don't always have to be paid for our services when we're building relationships and building our network. So sometimes it's serving. One way to serve is if you can bring somebody money or business, like if I had an opportunity for you and I opened a door for you and I introduced you to someone, you would appreciate that and you would more than likely reciprocate that. And now we have a network, we have a relationship. So there's like, you just got to be intentional around it. So hopefully that was some strategy for some people and that helps some people.
Definitely. But when it comes to follow up, a lot of entrepreneurs also say that they struggle with that. What's the perfect follow up procedure?
Picking up the phone and calling somebody. Picking up the old school way of doing business still works. I promise you.
So all the social media, send them an email, send them a funnel, lead them
That's
down
why
your funnel.
people are getting ignored. People are being left on red. LinkedIn, if you do want to follow up through like non-phone audio approach, LinkedIn is the best approach. Usually because it's usually that person who's running their own LinkedIn, whereas some people, they have their assistants or their team handling their social media. But most of the time, I've met direct reach outs through Instagram. I've built really good networks that way. But it's always picking up the phone and giving them a call. It always works. It's the best because people are shocked and they're surprised. They're like, "Oh my gosh, no one calls me. Thank you for calling me." Like, thank you. It works. It works like a charm.
That's very interesting. I mean, you've worked with influential figures, Mr. Stedman.
Yes.
Kevin as well.
Yeah.
In your journey, I mean, what are some of the lessons that you've taken? We can maybe start with Mr. Stedman because I've always, he's such a mysterious figure.
He is.
The man in Oprah Winfrey's life, but we don't know anything else about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's some of the nuggets that you've gotten from him?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. He is my mentor, and one thing that he always has me do is look at myself. Like what he always has me analyze what I'm doing in my life and my business that's going to be reflective of everything I'm putting out in the world. That's one thing, but there's so many nuggets. But one thing about Stedman is that he is a dynamic, smart, intelligent man who wants to see people win. You get what I'm saying? And those are the people, the type of mentors that you want, because those are the people that are going to pour into you and open doors for you. But I'm sorry, I keep going off. I keep forgetting your question. But your question is, what was your question?
The nuggets.
The nuggets. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Him,
So I'm sorry. I get on a tangent because when I think about the nuggets, it's been so many. Mainly about tapping into, his thing is about identity and knowing who you are. And that's something he's had to do. Oprah Winfrey, she's known all around the world, and he's in the background. So he has to stand in who he is as a person. And so that's one thing I've taken away from him is really standing in who you are and always being authentic and powerful in who you are and never letting anything or anybody overshadow who you are and just showing up in your most authentic self. That's the biggest nugget that I've taken away from him.
Very cool nugget. You've mentioned the importance of positioning brands correctly. Can you give us a few maybe examples of specific pitfalls that entrepreneurs go into when it comes to attempting to position their brands?
Yeah, I think a lot of times too many entrepreneurs are looking around and looking at what everybody else is doing, and they try to mimic and copy what they're doing because they see that it may be working for them. But a lot of times it probably isn't working for them. You get what I'm saying? Because they don't know. Have you ever seen that graphic where they have the iceberg and you see the iceberg and it looks pretty, when you're on top of the ocean, but below it, right, it's this big, ginormous piece of ice that you don't see the beauty in it. And so people don't see all of that stuff that it took to get to the success, which is all the hard stuff, the hard stuff that people have to go through. So main thing is stop looking at what other people are doing and make sure that you're customizing a strategy specifically for your audience and knowing exactly who your audience is and what their challenges are and what it's costing them as a result of not having you as a solution, right? Like you have to know what it's costing them. What are they missing out on? What are they losing? You get what I'm saying? Like that's important. Really, really having a strong sense of identity of who your audience is instead of just copying what somebody else in your industry is doing.
I've often observed the coaching industry in America, and I attended an event in New York with Tony Robbins, and I've attended many different events, and a lot of coaches speak about that breakthrough experience, that entrepreneurs get to that ceiling where they need a coach to help them break through to the next level. And I've observed and listened to this and thought this is very interesting. What are some of the ways that you guide entrepreneurs to overcome obstacles, to reach that breakthrough level where their business goes to the next level?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I said before about getting out of your comfort zone. And the main thing, like you said, is getting that assistance and that help. Even Oprah, where she is at now, she still has coaches and mentors that guide her and support her. She still has advisors, because other people, especially if they're an expert in something, will be able to see what you can't see. Because, when you're in your business, you only see what's in it. It's hard to see anything else outside. So always having that extra person or those extra eyes on your business, whether it's a business partner, a mentor, a coach, is always phenomenal. So to step outside of your business when you need to, man, you just got to get uncomfortable and be intentional and have strategy. Of course, some things are going to naturally happen, but having some sort of plan, like when we think about, I don't know if you guys have it here, but it's probably only in the States, but we have this thing called Black Friday. So it's this time of year when all the corporations, all the stores, all the retailers, they're selling all these things at a discount, right? And so ours happens in the States the day after Thanksgiving. So it's in November for us. And it's this big, huge day. But what entrepreneurs, small business owners don't realize is that those companies are planning for November in January. You get what I'm saying? And so as entrepreneurs, we have to think of our small businesses as big businesses. So it's all about mindset. It's all about a mindset shift in realizing that those businesses, those tools that they have, if we study those tools, we can incorporate them in our businesses as well.
That's profound. Studying the tools that the big businesses have and implementing them in the small business.
Absolutely.
For small businesses that, often say they're struggling, you host a brand mastermind and it sounds very impactful. But what tangible outcomes can they come out with if they do come and attend?
Yeah. I think what's the beauty with the brand masterminds that I do is I keep them very small and intimate, because when you go to a big conference, they're giving you general information or giving you tools, versus the brand mastermind, you're getting customized tools, like you're saying, that you can walk away with. So it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what it is, because it's unique to each individual. So when you come to a brand mastermind, you come with your challenge, your struggle, and not just me, but the group assists you specifically with those struggles, specifically with resources, with an attention strategy, verbiage. A lot of times entrepreneurs are not putting out the right message. And so that's mainly one thing that we focus on is your message attracting your audience? You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of times entrepreneurs are speaking in a struggle way. You can see and feel and hear their struggle in their marketing. So in a brand mastermind, we change that message for them. So now they're writing their new message. You get what I'm saying? So now when they leave, they have something to say different. They have a different way of showing up online and offline, because they're speaking now more intentionally to the struggles, right? And the challenges of their audience versus something else. You get what I'm saying? So that's a really big takeaway that a lot of my attendees have wow, I just changed these 3 words, or I know now what my brand words are, or I know what my guru-isms are, right? So there's a lot of things that they take away that are specific to their business and their audience.
You've had a diverse portfolio of clients, from schools to celebrities. People often wonder, American celebrities are global celebrities in that they function all around the world.
Yes.
And people often wonder, what does it take to making a celebrity? What does it take to building a celebrity brand? In your experience, which celebrity have you worked with, and what did it take for you to build that brand?
Wow, I've worked with quite a few celebrities, some athletes, some of them, some celebrities I work with, we have non-disclosures, right? And so I can't even say who they are, but some of them I kind of mentioned earlier. But to build a celebrity brand, typically the brands, when celebrities come to me, they're already known. They've already done a movie. They've already been in the NFL. They've already, done something where they've gotten a notoriety. But now they're looking to shift. We're in a space of shifting, right? That's why I call my conference the Coming Out Conference, because we're coming out, right? As our authentic selves, we're coming out in different ways. We're pivoting, we're shifting, right? And so they usually come to me when they're looking to do something different. Maybe they're looking now to go and share their story around the world. So they want to be speakers. So they'll hire my speaker agency to book them for speaking gigs, or they're now want to become an author and do a book tour. So they're looking for some kind of shift. So what I do is I take their celebrity, their image, their brand, and make some shifts, right? Make some shifts to a different type of audience so that people are not just buying their products and services for their celebrity because they're known, but because it's going to add some type of value to their lives. So that's the main thing that I have to do with working with celebrity brands. Like, how can we make this valuable to the consumer so they buy and not just buy because they like your movie? You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of the shift that has to take place with these celebrity brands. I haven't worked with a celebrity where we've taken them from idea to celebrity. They're already kind of known first.
And what are some of the challenges that you've experienced in terms of the work that you do in branding, where you thought this cannot be fixed, or this is too difficult to fix?
It's usually the people. They don't want to change. They don't want to change. A lot of times people will, they want change, but they're not willing to change. So that's always a shift that I have to work through as a coach in that personal space and that mindset with the entrepreneur. Other than that, if they're open and willing to trust the process, there's always a gain for them. They always see growth in either profits or brand value, one way or another. So to answer your question, it's usually the person that has to make the change. And that's always difficult because when you have someone who's been doing something a certain way for a long time, it's hard to kind of, help them recreate and see things differently. So that's always been a challenge for me.
And talking about that change that they need to make, what are some of the practical advice that you would give someone who's on a journey of attracting wealth?
Oh gosh, it all goes back to mindset. But number one, I would say the sense of belief. In business, when we're talking about money and financials and building wealth, it's always about the personal work and the inner work. It all starts there. We can't skip that step. You get what I'm saying? Like, we can't. The wealth, the growth, the connections, everything boils down to doing that inner work. And that requires some doing some self-analysis and asking yourself some hard questions. So it always starts with that, because I believe that no matter where you are, no one can teach you how to hustle, right? You built this amazing brand that you have. No one taught you how to hustle. It was in you. Right? And so all you're doing is just strengthening what's already in you. So that's what my advice is. Continue to work on yourself. Continue to listen to podcasts like this. Continue to get knowledge. Continue to get help. Continue to get guidance, and keep investing in yourself.
And for the people that are starting out, I mean, they're listening to you talk about the silent money method, and they've taken some nuggets to start implementing there. What about some business strategies? Because I think a lot of times people say, where we start, we'll go and network. And once we have the contact details of the person, what then is our game plan for the business?
Yeah.
So what are some of the business strategies that you could just give people that are starting out?
The first thing, let me think what would be the first thing. The first thing, number one, is knowing your audience, really doing a deep, deep, deep dive on your audience. And that's the knowing why they're going to buy, knowing where they are, how are you going to attract them to you? Number one, it's all about your audience. The second thing is identifying your brand message. What are you going to say that's going to get you noticed and attract either a partner or attract your customer? That's number two. And then the next thing is developing that network and building in nurturing relationships and continuing at it. And don't give up and know that there's going to be no's. Look forward to the no's. Look forward to fail. Right? You like know that that's going to happen, because so many entrepreneurs that are starting out, they quit at the nose. They get frustrated. The next thing may be the yes that's going to change your life. So that's very important. But when it comes to starting a business, it's about audience and your brand message and building your value in your marketplace, which is very important. And I'll end with that one. Building your value is how is your brand perceived? Like, what's the value of it? And like, if we look at Netflix, it has a very high value. People see it as valuable because it's dependable, has great appeal. We can go and get what we need, right? So how are you going to build value in your brand so that people see it as worthy as me paying for it? And it doesn't have to be high priced, but just paying for it, because you can have, very low cost products as well and sell to a lot of people. But how are you going to make that brand valuable? What does that look like for you? And again, it goes into strategy and intention.
Very interesting nuggets. You've authored 11 books. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about maybe your top 3 favorites out of the 11 books that you've authored. and what do they delve into?
Yeah, so my very first book is called Release the Chains, A Woman's Roadmap for Finding the Strength to Reclaim Her Destiny. And that's when I share my personal story about incarceration and homelessness and how I mentally and internally dug myself out of that at a very young age. I was 18, 19 years old, making a lot of dumb decisions, right? Hanging with the wrong crowds. And a lot of people now in their adult lives, young adult lives, are hanging with the wrong crowds. They're with people that don't want to see them win. They're with people that don't have the progressive mindset as them. And that's where I was. Right? So I didn't have the right circle. So I had to release those chains. I had to release those people. I had to release that mindset. I had to release the area that I even lived in and moved all across the country. So that was my story. So I always tell you, we can't skip the interpersonal things. My second book that I think was...
Maybe just before we get to your second book.
Sure.
Where did you move from and where did you move to?
In the United States, I moved from Sacramento, California. And I don't know how familiar you are with California, but it's very drug and gang infested. We got the Bloods and Crips, right? And so I grew up in that environment, Bloods and Crips and gang violence and drive-by shootings and drugs and prostitution all around me, right? So it kind of inevitable for me to not be attracted to it, right? And then...
Did you ever get sucked in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I went to jail, in and out of jail multiple times. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What were you in jail for?
I'd never really talk about that, but it was for theft and writing bad checks.
Yo, and look at the transformation.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what people say. There's been plenty of articles in different magazines, Black Enterprise and different, that have talked about my story of how I've gone from felon to financial wealth, because of the mindset shifts that I had in my circles that I've been around, and being able to share my story and not being embarrassed about it, I
think it's so important because, we're in South Africa where a lot of young women are getting sucked into this Instagram prostitution and there's no jobs and, the drugs and the crime.
Yeah.
Your story of a woman who went to jail, who was in that environment, and got herself out to this multi-million dollar brand strategist coach. That's so inspirational. But for the person watching who might be in that situation, how did you finally decide that I'm done?
Yeah, wow. It was when I was in jail. I was laying in jail, and I did my documentary about this. I was laying in there, and I realized that I was better than this. And I think that's the first step for a woman who is showing her body, getting pulled in. Know that you deserve better. Know that you deserve better. But in order for you to know that, you have to get around people that also know you deserve better. Because a lot of times we get sucked into that environment because those people, they want us there. Misery loves company. But success loves company too. You get what I'm saying? Successful people, we love to bring other people up that are on a mission to come up. So change your circle. But it all starts with belief, knowing that you deserve better. That's number one. And then start making those changes. Get around people who are, doing things that are positive that you want to do, you know?
And I mean, how did you do that? Because a lot of people would say that if I've got a bad group of friends, they're on drugs or they're not doing well, for them to just leave and automatically find new friends is not a real thing,
That's what I did, though. It's possible. And that's what I say.
How did you do it?
I have a term called all I see is possibility. I believed in myself and I did it. I didn't care what people thought about me. It wasn't easy. It was tough. I cried. But thankfully, I had someone that did believe in me, and that was my husband. We've been married for 21 years, I think, around that time. We've been together a long time. But I found someone that believed in me. But I left it all behind with nothing. But I did have support of my spouse. I did. So that's why you got to find somebody that also believes in you, because you can't do it alone. You can't. It could be one person or a group of people that can support you. But if people see that you want to change, they will help you change, because it is very difficult to do it alone. But I made a decision. I said, I deserve more. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do this. And I did it.
Ooh.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I did it.
That's so profound. I mean, leaving an environment of stuff that you were used to, you grew up in that environment.
All your friends, all your family.
Your friends, your family.
Yeah, left them all behind.
And you took this path, and here it is.
Yeah. Because they'll pull you down. You'll be dead. You'll be strung out. You'll have a miserable life if you allow it.
But I mean, in the process of cutting them off or saving yourself,
I call it releasing the chains.
Oh, releasing the chains. Yeah, I'm glad you gave me the right terminology there. Many people usually say that it's not easy to do that.
It's not.
But what kept you going? I mean, on the days where you thought, oof, let me go back.
My spirituality, my faith, my future, the vision that I have for my life. I think that's important. Knowing that I deserve more, knowing that I was better than that, always kept me going. Made me never look back. A couple of times I wanted to go back, because sometimes people from your past, they'll come back, especially when they see you doing well.
Oof.
Yeah, they'll try to bring you back down where they are, and it can be easy because that life is fun. It's carefree. It's it's kind of,
there's no responsibility.
There's no responsibility. So it could be. And then I literally, when I moved to a city and state, which was 3,000 miles away.
Where did you move to?
I didn't know Washington, D.C. area.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I went to Howard University in D.C. I didn't know anyone.
Wow. So from the
California,
young lady who went to jail into Howard.
Into Howard, yeah. Well, because I was always a straight A student. I was always smart. I was just making dumb decisions. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you and I know quite a few young people in Nigeria and in South Africa that they're very intelligent, but because of the environment, that intelligence is just going to waste.
It is, absolutely. And that's what was happening with me.
What did you study at Howard?
Television and film production.
And when you got to Howard, did you what was that experience? Because you were coming from an environment where carefree and everybody's just doing whatever they're doing. And
it was the most life-changing. It was one of the best decisions, I would say top 3 decisions I've ever made for myself, because Howard reminds me of Africa. It's so welcoming, and it's community, and it's, it's like people want to see you win. And I had never been in that type of environment, except in my home. My mom wanted me to see me win, of course.
Yeah.
But I've never been in that environment before. Those black teachers. Now, when I went to school, I went to all white schools, right? It's different.
Not the same, yeah.
Totally different. Those black teachers, they were like, okay, Ari, come on now. Come in my office. Come on. Let's, it's all about your environment. It's your circle. It's your community. You got to be around people that want to see you win, that are going to clap for you. They're going to push you and open doors for you. It's so important. So it was the most amazing experience of my. It makes me get emotional because it was like night and day just to be in that environment. It changed my life. It changed, and I had to make new friends. I had to build a community. I started a business there. I started a dance and performing arts school. My story is just crazy. I can talk about it all day, but it's just crazy.
Wow, that's so profound. I mean, looking at, the journey that you've taken, you did very well in America, very successful, and you're in Africa today, South Africa.
Yeah.
Why the move, or why did you come here?
So my aunt Margie, rest her soul, she used to go to Ghana, like every other year when I was a child. And in America, the images we see of Africa are not good. They just show that it's just all impoverished. People are hungry. People are starving. And she told me it's not like that. She said, it's not like that. She said, people are thriving. They love each other. They dance. They have good food and they shop and they're just like us, but on TV, we didn't see that. Right. And so I had this as a little girl, 6 and 10 and 12 and 15. She said she was going to take me, but it never happened. So I've always had this fascination with the continent. And I travel a lot, but I said I didn't want to go abroad until I first visited the motherland, right? And then I started doing my own history about, us being the first people and all of these things. I started doing my own investigation about the continent, and I just became very interested in the culture. Not what I was told. And then a friend of mine, Haki, he was doing a conference here, and he asked me if I went inside Johannesburg, and he asked me if I wanted to come and speak because I'm a speaker. And I said, can I cuss? I won't cuss. But I said, absolutely. Absolutely, I will. I purchased my own ticket within 45 days. I came. That was in 2021, I think. Very recent. And this is my third time back.
Wow.
I fell in love with South Africa, and then I visited Tanzania last year as well. So
wow. But what do you think is that thing about the motherland? Because I think everybody says it. Even Beyonce, when she was here, said motherland. And because we grew up in South Africa, we grew up in Africa.
You don't know your magic.
For granted. Yeah.
It's so rich here. It's so rich. The people, number one, are very. You guys just have this welcoming family dynamic. You guys have this sense of community that we as Black Americans don't have. Black Americans in general. I'm speaking in general because, of course, there's always those instances where this is not the case. But we're not very community. We don't unite a lot to come together to make a difference in America. Where here in Africa, and I know it's like that too here in Africa, in South Africa, I've heard where, it's kind of divided in certain demographics, but not really. I see you like, well, not really.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. I think it may be like a financial thing,
Yeah.
But here, you guys come together, you work together, you're referring people, you're helping each other out. I love that because that's who I am. But Black Americans in general, we have this I don't want to see you win mentality in general. Like, I want to see you win, but not doing better than me in general. So coming to South Africa, when I saw that, I was like, oh, gosh, this is nice. This is nice. And it's so rich here. Yeah, it's just so rich here. I just love it.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. I love that so much.
Yeah.
But we're still on your books. You told us the first one, the second book, favorite out of the 11.
My second favorite would be All I See Is Possibility. And it's called something about getting what you want. And again, it goes back to that Interpersonal development. Tapping into who you are as a spiritual being, doing the work on yourself, because it all starts from within, right? That's my second favorite book. All I See is Possibility. And then my last one I just wrote called Become a High Value Brand and Why You Should. It's the best book that I've written because I've taken all of my 25 years of entrepreneur experience and I've put it into this book. And I've used examples. I did research on this book. I didn't just write it like I wrote the other ones from my own experience, but I used, data and statistics and stories of other successful entrepreneurs, and I incorporated that with the teachings that I take and I use with my clients on building their high value brand. And so I think it's a work of art. I think it's my best book. Yeah, because it really teaches you how to build a brand that can become multi-million.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a speaker who's booked out to speak at many conferences, what are some of the topics that you cover in your keynotes?
Yeah, so right now my keynotes are becoming a high value brand, building your brand equity. Number one, I'm always speaking on releasing the chains, going back to, releasing the chains. I call it the 4 F's to freedom. What is my other topics that I'm speaking on? Silent money. I just did a talk on silent money in Virginia and about just, ways to diversify the way that you market your business.
Wow. In South Africa, we have this culture of people only listen to people speak when they go to church. And I think everybody in South Africa heard speakers from church, But I've noticed that in America, it's very different. In America, people go to church and they go to seminars where people speak to them.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the times, I think that's part of the success of how Americans are so fired up and inspired. But maybe to the people that don't really value speakers and what the job of speakers and coaches is. Could you maybe just let them know why it's important?
I think we learn from each other's experiences. We learn from people's journeys. We learn from their mistakes. And I think when you're hearing someone outside of the church speak on and usually it always ties back to God anyway, usually. But I think when you're able to hear other people, you find something in them that you can identify with outside of just religion or spirituality. And I think that's why it's so important, because they're sharing their stuff, their experiences and their expertise, and it's so important to just learn from various people, because you'll find that there's something that we pretty much all have in common. So it's so important. I didn't know that wasn't a big thing here.
So in South Africa, most of the people listen to people speak at church.
Okay.
And it sort of ends there.
Yeah.
Right? So when I got to the US, I went to Stanford University to study for some time, went over to New York, and everywhere I went, there's a meetup where somebody's speaking.
Yes.
There's this where somebody's speaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, this culture's so special.
Yeah.
But here, it's usually, just the church that hosts the speaking stuff. So I've sort of picked up that dynamic. And I think it's helped a lot of American entrepreneurs learn from each other.
Yeah, it definitely has. When you talk about Tony Robbins, he's one of my favorites. When I was 17, I started reading his books, and it's just influential. People want to be influenced. People want to be inspired. And we relate to real people and real stories.
Let's talk a little bit about that, the story part, because a lot of entrepreneurs try to leave their story out of what they're doing. And as much as we do have entrepreneurs like your Steve Jobs, who nobody really knows the full story.
Right.
A lot of people say in branding, your story is part of it. What advice would you give an entrepreneur? What approach should they take to putting their story in their brand or their business?
Well, I have a whole strategy called the $1 Million Brand Method, and it's my upside down A method, right? So when you're sharing your story, it has to be 3 parts. For one, sharing your story now in this age is absolutely necessary now. It's absolutely necessary now because people are looking to connect with people, right? People want to identify. People buy from who they know and they like, right? So it's important, no matter what your story is. And I know you've heard of Les Brown. Have you ever heard Les Brown speak? Yeah. He's phenomenal, right? But Les Brown, he shares the same stories over and over and over and over again. But each time you laugh, each time you're inspired and each time you cry. So storytelling is important. So when you're using it to sell a product or a service, you want to use either your personal story or a client's story. So if we're talking about our story, for example, with mine, you want to talk about, number one, where you were, right? Where you were, what place were you in at a time in your life, right? And it's typically a challenge, or a struggle, typically, where you were. It doesn't have to be something crazy. It could just be something normal, right? You were having a hard time finding somebody to clean your house, whatever. It could be something it's just some kind of challenge. But that challenge and that struggle has to identify with your audience. That's why I say you got to know your audience, right? It has to identify with the audience. The audience should be having the same struggle or a similar struggle. I share my story of incarceration. If I'm speaking to an audience of 200 people, maybe it's only 1 or 2 people who have ever been incarcerated in the audience. But what the story and the challenge was making a bad decision. So when I'm on stage, I always say, how many other people here have made a bad decision? Every single person in the room raises their hand, right? So that's number one. And then you want to take it down. Remember, we're upside down A. And you want to take it down to those pivotal moments, those things that you talked about. Your first question was like, what were those pivotal moments in your life where you begin to make a change or a shift? Those things should be the things that you want the audience to do or your customer to do. So for me, it could be I changed my circle. That could be a pivotal moment, right? I talked about that. And that's what I want my customer to do. I want them to come to my mastermind or my conference that I'm hosting here in South Africa. I'll be back again because I don't know when this is going to air. But I want them to change their circle and get around positive minds, influential people, right? So that's one thing. Read a book. Well, maybe I want them to buy my book. You get what I'm saying? So that, and then because of all of these things that I did, this is where I am now. Right? Okay, can't do it. Here I am now, and I'm successful. My mindset have shifted. I'm living my dream life. I'm helping people, children all around the world, right? And where I am now is where my audience wants to be, mentally, spiritually, financially. You get what I'm saying? So that's how you share your brand story to make money.
And maybe let's delve into that. I mean, some of the business that you've done as a female entrepreneur in the US. What are some of the businesses that you've done, and which ones were successful? Which ones did not do so well?
Oh gosh, I've done quite a few that haven't been successful. That's why I say you got to fail forward. You got to keep failing. You have to keep failing. So let's talk about the not successful ones. I was doing comedy shows. I was selling makeup, Mary Kay, not successful. I was just doing anything that I could, but I wasn't like, I didn't go through the process of brand and business. I was just trying to make money. You get what I'm saying? I was doing everything wrong. But then it all began to click for me when I opened my dance and performing arts school. And this was back in 2003, I believe, around that time. And that's when I started tapping into doing big business, doing business the way that it should be done. And I operated that dance school. It was a 2,000 square foot building for 10 years. And that's when I learned business and brand building. Even though it was a dance school for children, it was still wrapped around my brand and my story. You get what I'm saying? Not my story of going to jail, but my story of being a go-getter and wanting to make a difference in the world. Because that's why I started that school, was to make a difference in those children's, Black little girls' lives. That was what I wanted to do, right? And so that was the turning point, really, really just, that was a very successful business. And from that's when people started asking me how to help them with their business. And that was just easy for me, but I didn't know I had that gift. And so now here I am as a brand manager and speaker agency owner.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you a couple of signature questions,
Sure.
which I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure.
If you could go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, what advice would you give yourself?
To stop faking it. To stop faking it till you make it. because I was told to do that. Fake it till you make it. No, you don't want to fake it till you make it because you end up losing a lot of money and a lot of time. That's what I would tell myself. I would tell myself to be more intentional, more strategic. Yeah.
What is the one book that has significantly impacted your work and your life, and why?
Say that again.
The one book.
Oh, the one book. Wow, there's been many. I would say the first book I ever read, I was probably between 17 and 19. I know I was still in high school, so maybe 16 and 18. And it's called "It's Nobody's Business But Your Own." That book literally changed my life because I learned about the reason why people get into entrepreneurship. The book is not even in print anymore. I still have it, and it has highlights and flip pages and all these things. But it talked about the reasons why people build their own. And they talked about Donald Trump in the book. He was one of the people they talked about in the book. And that book literally changed my life. A book that people can still get now, of course, is probably everybody's favorite book, but it's Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure that book is a book that I had my son read, and it changed the way he thinks. When he was probably like 10 or 11 and he read that book. I'm going to have him read it again. He reads a lot of books. I have him read a lot of books. But you have to read that book, I would say, every 5 to 10 years because we change and we shift mentally and spiritually, and physically in our lives every 5 to 10 years. So when you read it again, you pick up things you didn't pick up before. Same thing as the Bible, right? If you read a scripture 10 years ago and you read it 10 years now, you're going to get something different from it. You get what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with that book. So I always say, keep reading that book every 5 to 10 years.
Can you share a personal mantra or a quote that you live by?
All I see is possibility.
All I see is possibility.
And that's my own mantra or quote. All I see is possibility. You have to go into that. It's just having an optimistic mindset. I'm not a complainer. Things go wrong all the time. I'm not perfect. I deal with challenges every single day, but I go into it with the mindset of possibility. Yeah.
When you face challenges in your business, what is your go-to strategy for overcoming that adversity?
Number one is to sit down and breathe. And then number two is to look at how am I responsible for what's happening right now? What did I do to cause this situation, right? Taking responsibility is number one. Not blaming the outside world, but how did I attract this to me? And then how am I going to handle it? You get what I'm saying? In a way that's going to be beneficial to my mental, and spiritual space. So, yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward, what are your goals for the next 5 years, both personally and in business?
Personally, I want to do more traveling. I want to get to a place where I can take those month-long vacations with my family and go to Kenya for a month or go, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting there, like someone's like, how long are you going to be going? I was like, 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. I can leave my business for 2 weeks and it can run without me, which is pretty cool. That's my plan. I want to see more of the world. And then professionally, I want my speaker agency to become the number one speaker agency, the top go-to sought after speaker agency for speakers all around the world of color in the Black diaspora. I want to get us more on those stages that we're not being invited to.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
And in closing, what's the thing you want to be remembered for?
I think I'm already remembered for this, just being an inspiration. So many people, every single day, I tell people, when people think I may be exaggerating, but every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, somebody is in my email, in my inbox, or in person, and they're telling me that I've been an inspiration to them in some way every single day. So I think I'm already living my legacy.
Wow. Thank you so much for being that inspiration, and thank you for coming
to our
podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.